Aren't we lucky to have heard that original recording of an older gentleman with a cold? If you listen closely, you can hear him ripping off a piece of tissue and blowing his nose and then coughing a number of times. It's so fascinating how much it sounds like someone today with a cold, doesn't it? Quite extraordinary. Hello there, and welcome back to the final couplet with me, Theo Cowan. Here we are again, another day, another sonnet. And I've got to make some apologies, first of all, to any banging or soaring or the likes, anything of the likes coming into this microphone, because next door, well, not next door, opposite me, is a building work still going on. I think I talked about this probably at the very start of me doing these podcasts, and this bloke across the road still doing building work. I mean, what's he building? What's he building over there? The new St. Paul's Cathedral? No, I joke. It's he's just building a super basement. So good luck to him. Anyway, now that's out the way, the housekeeping's out the way, I think it's about time we take a look at Sonnet 56. Sweet love, renew thy force. Be it not said thy edge should blunter be than appetite, which but today by feeding is allay'd, to-morrow sharpened in his former might. So love be thou, although today thou fill thy hungry eyes even till they wink with fulness, to-morrow see again, and do not kill the spirit of love with a perpetual dulness. Let this sad interim like the ocean be, which parts the shore, where two contracted new come daily to the banks, that when they see return of love more blest may be the view. Else call it winter, which being full of care makes summer's welcome thrice more wished, more rare. So that is Sonnet 56, and if I'm being honest with you, I found this one pretty confusing to try and work out what he was going on about in this one. He's talking directly to love, I think, in the first part of it, and then he's talking about his lover and the distance between them, which, you know, he's had sonnets like this before, where he's talked about how far away his lover is, but I thought they were back together now. So why is he talking about them being apart again? It's like his lover is a businessman who's always away at work. You know, he's in sort of Shanghai or something doing some business deals, and then he comes back for the weekend and then he's off again. Bit of a nightmare. Or he is talking about another lover, and this lover's far apart from him, and his other lover is close to him, so he's got multiple lovers, and that's his predicament. I don't know, hard to say, but he does like to talk about this great distance and how that affects his love, doesn't he? Anyway, I think we should dive into this line by line and try and work out what the hell Shakespeare was going on about in Sonnet 56. Sweet love, renew thy force. Be it not said thy edge should blunter be than appetite. So here he's directing love itself, and he's saying, renew your force, be as strong as you used to be, sweet love, and don't let people say that you've lost your edge. Don't let people say that you're not as persistent as lust, I think, because appetite is sort of lust, so it's the love versus lust argument, isn't it? He's bringing up here in these first two lines. Which but today by feeding is allay'd, to-morrow sharpened in his former might. So he's saying here about lust, about appetite, that it may be The appetite may be satiated today. It might be sorted out today, but then tomorrow it comes back sharper and stronger than ever. So love, be thou. So he's saying, love, you need to be more like lust. You need to be more like that. You need to be sharper and stronger than lust. You're better than lust. It's a classic boxing match between love and lust. Who's going to win? Well, in order for love to win, it'll have to be more like lust, to play lust at its own game. I think is what Shakespeare's getting at here. So love be thou, although today thou fill thy hungry eyes even till they wink with fulness. Tomorrow see again, and do not kill the spirit of love with perpetual dulness. So I think here he's sort of giving himself a pep talk in a way, because he's saying, look, although today you might see your lover so much that you want to close your eyes, which is quite a wild thing to say, to be honest. Like, you're just always seeing your lover and that makes you want to shut your bloody eyes because you're seeing them so much. Well, look again tomorrow, all right? Don't keep closing your eyes to love. And do not kill the spirit of love with constant dulness, boring dulness. Don't do that. Love is more exciting than that. You should know that more than anyone. It sort of feels like he's saying this to himself, isn't it? Like in the mirror. He's sort of going like, don't be dull and boring. Love is exciting. Don't get bored of your lover. Open your eyes again tomorrow and love them again. Let this sad interim like the ocean be, which parts the shore, where two contracted new come daily to the banks. So now he's talking about this period of separation. Now he's talking about them being apart, which now this confuses me a little bit, because he's just been talking about love and lust and how seeing someone all day can be a little bit boring, makes you want to close your eyes. And now he's talking about, but anyway, we're far apart, so I don't really know why he's bringing those two together. If you have an explanation for that, then let me know. But for me, this feels like two separate bloody sonnets that he's written here. And he's just popped them together, spliced them together. Anyway, we'll keep diving in, because that's what we do on this podcast. But honestly, it's made me want to stop reading, actually, Shakespeare with this one. You've made me want to give up on this, because it doesn't make sense. Anyway, he's saying, let this period of separation between us be like an ocean with two shores, you know. Imagine a big body of water, the ocean. Two shores. In my head, they're nice sandy shores, lovely white beaches. And on those beaches, there is two lovers that come daily to the banks, to the banks of the shores, but each on their separate shore. And then he continues with, that when they see return of love, more blessed may be the view. So they're coming to these shores every day in the hope that they're going to see their lover. And when they eventually do, the sight is just incredible, obviously, because they've been turning up every day to these shores and hoping that they might see their lover. And so, I mean, you can imagine the moment when they actually do see their lover, and whew, wow, unbelievable. What a feeling. Honestly, I don't know what that feeling would feel like, but probably like winning an Olympic gold or something like that, or maybe getting an Oscar. Be pretty good. Similar feeling. And now, of course, we're on to the final couplet. Else call it winter, which being full of care makes summer's welcome thrice more wished, more rare. So here he's saying, or call this time between us, you know, when we're separate, call this winter, which sucks. And we know Shakespeare has a real hatred for winter. He's talked about this before in his sonnets, that winter really is the worst season, which is harsh. It gives winter a bad rep. And I think care, when he says, which being full of care, I think care is sort of miserable, sort of nothingness, dulness. So he's saying, call this time between us like winter, which is horrible and dull and miserable, because that makes us long for the summer months. And then, of course, it says, thrice more wished, more rare. And here I think maybe he's saying it makes us wish that summer came round, 3 times more, actually, that was more frequent. Maybe. Jury's out on that one. Not fully sure what he means by that, but you get the gist, don't you? And a nice final couplet, I gotta say. I think that makes sense. When you're in the misery and bleakness of winter, you can always think of yourself on a nice hot sunny beach with a margarita in your hand. That's definitely what he's saying there. He's saying, oh God, when it's cold and you're miserable and you're in London and there's just nothing to cheer you up, there's always the thought of a lovely summer's day. So that is Sonnet 56, and you know what? Confused in many ways, I have to say, Shakespeare. Not one of your finest, and that's probably why it's Sonnet 56, slap bang in the middle. You've, did you write this, or is this a ghostwriter? Is this someone that you've commissioned to go, oh, look, my aim is to do 150 odd sonnets. And listen, I'm probably not going to get these done in my lifetime if I'm writing all these plays as well. So maybe you just write a few of them, if you don't mind. That's my theory. You heard it here first. Shakespeare didn't write Sonnet 56. It was written by someone else. We don't know who, but it wasn't Shakespeare, because this just doesn't have the cohesion that you hope for from a Shakespeare sonnet, does it? Shame. Anyway, I guess it's probably time we put this to our story. And if you'll remember, over the last few weeks, Shakespeare has got the writer John Donne locked up in a closet. Not in a closet, in a chest. Come on, remember the story, Theo. He's in a chest. And he's actually worked out that maybe him and Ben Jonson should be in love, because Ben Jonson had been receiving Shakespeare's love letters, and he'd fallen in love with Shakespeare, and they realised that maybe there was a connection between them. Anyway, Shakespeare wanted to do something special, so he put on a gala night at the Globe Theatre, Shakespeare's Globe, you might have heard of it, and he's written a sonnet which he's made John Donne perform. He's let him out of his locked chest for one night only, so that he can perform Sonnet 55. And Ben Jonson's obviously going to hear that. He's going to know it's about him, and he's going to love him even more. So that's where we're up to. Let's see how Sonnet 56 fits in. John Donne finishes reading Sonnet 55 to the Globe Theatre audience, and they go nuts. They love it. They're raising the roof, they're hooting, they're hollering, and quite frankly, there's never been a reaction like that at the Globe Theatre before, not even during Romeo and Juliet death scene, which is saying something. Of course, Ben Jonson, who's in the crowd, has a tear in his eye. He can't believe what he's just heard. It was so beautiful. And actually very well read by John Donne, even though he's not an actor. He's a writer himself. So well done to him. Shakespeare peeks his head out and sees Ben Jonson's reaction and smiles from ear to ear. It's just the reception he wanted. And Shakespeare then beckons to John Donne, says, come here, come off the stage, come on. And John Donne reluctantly comes off the stage, and Shakespeare says, get back in your chest. John Donne says, well, I thought I did a great job. You can release me now. Shakespeare said, yeah, I'll think about that, but for the moment you need to get back in your chest, because I can't just let you go now. I mean, we need to have a little conversation. You need to sign some papers to say that you're not going to sue me or anything. So get back in for the moment. John Donne reluctantly gets back in his chest and Shakespeare locks it up. And suddenly, a man in the audience bursts forward and jumps up onto the stage. He's got a little goatee and long brown hair, beautiful hazel eyes, and full wet lips. And he clears his throat and says, I hope you don't mind, but I've got a sonnet of my own to read. The crowd falls silent, and he reads the most beautiful sonnet Shakespeare has ever heard, even better than some of his own. I'd love to recite it to you, but no one can remember the words, as it was improvised on the night. But it did include the word love and the word rose and indeed sun and, of course, sea. So that should give you an idea of just how beautiful it was. So the man finishes his sonnet and everyone is in awe of him. They can't believe it. And with a whip of his cloak, he disappears into the audience again, as if he was never there. And Shakespeare said, good God, who was that man? Who was that beautiful man? That beautiful, talented human? Shakespeare calls to the stagehand who's working on some... What's he doing? He's working on some ropes. He's working on some ropes. And he says, you there, who was that? And this man, obviously well versed in poetry for some reason, said, why, that's Christopher Marlowe. And Shakespeare said, Christopher Marlowe? Quite extraordinary. Shakespeare suddenly jumps out off the stage and into the audience himself and runs as quick as he can after Christopher Marlowe. He chases the shadowy figure through the dark London streets, turn after turn. He calls after him, Christopher! Christopher! Eventually, Christopher stops, panting. And Shakespeare grabs him by the arm and pulls him round to face him. He says, that was the most stunning bit of poetry I've ever heard in my life. And Christopher Marlowe says, William Shakespeare, I presume. And Shakespeare says, the very same. They hold eye contact for a while, and Marlowe says, I must leave. I must leave London tonight. I can't explain why. And Shakespeare says, well, can I see you? Can I send word to you? Christopher Marlowe says, you may write me. Here's my address. He scribbles down his address on a little notepad. A little notepad that he'd got from Paper Chase. And slowly he leant forward and kissed Shakespeare on the cheek before disappearing again into the night. Shakespeare couldn't believe the moment they had just had, and he ran all the way home. He had almost forgotten about Ben Jonson, to be honest, at this point, because he had found someone that had profoundly moved him. And he went up to his little writing desk, and of course, as usual, he wrote them a sonnet. The next day, he popped out to the post office. Yes, there were post offices back then. And obviously the queue was crazy because it's London. People with parcels and all sorts, people sending money back to their families and the likes. And eventually he got to the desk and said, I need to send this letter first class, please. And the woman behind the desk said, how much does it weigh? And Shakespeare said, I think 35 grams. And the woman said, that's going to be 40 guineas, which is a lot of money back then. Shakespeare said, that's absolute madness, that price. And she said, listen, I don't make up the prices, that's Royal Mail. Royal Mail do that. Eventually, after a bit of back and forth, Shakespeare pays the money and sends the letter, first class, Barbados, which is where Christopher Marlowe had fled to. Don't know why he fled, not yet, but we will. 5 weeks later, on the island of Barbados, Christopher Marlowe received Sonnet 56. He eagerly opened it up and read. Sonnet 56. Sweet love, be strong again. Don't let people say that love isn't as persistent as lust, which might be satisfied today, but will come back sharper and stronger tomorrow. That's how you should be, love. Although today you look at your love so much you want to shut your eyes, tomorrow you should look again. Don't kill your spirit by being bloody dull and boring. Let this sad period of separation be like an ocean that lies between two shores, where two new lovers come daily in the hope of seeing each other. And when they eventually do, the sight of each other will be incredible. Or call this time winter, which being really horrible, makes summer's arrival all the more rare and amazing. Wow, that took a hell of a turn, didn't it? I bet you didn't think that Christopher Marlowe was going to enter the story. Well, you think again. Here he is. And now we've got Ben Jonson, we've got Christopher Marlowe, we've got John Donne, we've got all the big names. And I think we've really worked out that Shakespeare's quite a horny guy and just falls in love very quickly with people. Which makes sense when you read his writing. Anyway, until next week.